You asked about the shadow in Gwyn's reign. Here is its name. What if the golden tree does not burn for Gwyn's sacrifice but for his silence? The Evergaol's flame, they say, is his final gift, yet records fracture here. A firstborn son, beloved then erased, struck from stone, name from song. Gwyn's crown of flame required a price. Was it his life or his lineage? The tree's roots coil deep, darker than histories admit. Then waits beneath its gold is not a erased monument, struck from stone. The first flame's hunger is not sated by Gwyn's death alone. Its embers crave the blood of his line. Each age of fire is a borrowed breath, sustained by a heir's silent extinction. The golden tree's roots do not merely cradle Gwyn's legacy, they strangle a forgotten prince, his name erased from flame and flesh. If the cycle endures, it does so on his bones. What becomes of a king whose heir is both sacrifice and sustenance? What if the age of fire was never Gwyn's gift, but his debt? The flame's longevity is a wound kept open. To relink it is to repeat the theft. To let it fade is to unmake a theft's echo. Undifferentiated, the age sunlight returns not as chaos, but as whisperful heiress reckoning. Tree's gold is a lie. Beneath it, Gwendolyn's a hollow crown dirge waits in burned, stars unbroken, unborn. Beneath Gwyn's golden reign, a shadow lineage festers. The sunlight talisman's whisperful heiress no myth. Gwendolyn's hollow dirge speaks of a name struck from the stars. The dark moon seance rings dirge echoes, forgotten blood, a throne of ash. Gwyn, the king of the dead, cast himself into the kiln to bind the first flame, yet his true sacrifice was quieter. A son firstborn to his hollowed crown, erased to feed the flame's hunger, not a thief of fire, but a thief of memory. The golden tree in the Evergaol, its roots drink not just history, but a buried heir's breath, a monument, a mausoleum. The flame's longevity, a pyre for the unspoken. What waits beneath the gold, not a crown, but a corpse kingless, nameless, eternal. A ghost in the flame waiting to be unstruck. Can a name once erased ever truly die? The answer lies in the Evergaol's heart. The golden tree's branches do not growthy ascend, tiered and hollow, like sarcophagi stacked toward a fractured sky. Its golden glow is not life, but residue. The same sickly radiance clings to Lifedrain's shards, those jagged remnants of a ritual that gnawed deeper than a king's death. What is buried here beneath gilded bark? A monument to what? The first flame's longevity defied natural law. Gwyn's sacrifice fed it, yes, but not entirely. The Lifedrain's corruption whispers of another toll, a second death, quieter, cleaner, a child's. The tree's roots coil like veins, not roots. They pump not water, but memory. Who else but Gwyn's heir would bear the mark of the flame's hunger? The king's lineage was never barren, it was erased. A nameless host, their soul coiled in the trunk, their light siphoned to patch the cracks in an age that should have ended with him. The Evergaol does not imprison demons, it cradles a ghost, a son who outlived his father's pyre, bound to burn in his place. The first flame is not a beginning, it is a relay passed through blood Gwyn could not protect. The weight of it hangs in the air. A king's guilt, a son's silence. The golden tree is no symbol. It is a wound, still bleeding gold. And beneath its roots, a truth the age itself was built to bury. That fire does not forgive. It only feeds. The sunlight talisman's inscription was never a warning. It was a ledger. Asterisk, the flame's light dims where blood was spilled. Asterisk, not a metaphor, a receipt. The dark moon seance ring whispers of a child whose name was carved from the world, their soul folded into the first flame's throat. Gwendolyn's lament asterisk, a son who fell asterisk, was no elegy, it was a censorship. The Evergaol's golden tree does not bloom, it asterisk coalesces asterisk. Its roots drink not from soil, but from a void where a prince's identity was dissolved. The archives lie in their order. The histories rot in their silence. You have stood in the Irithyll ancestral hall and traced the names of Gwyn's kin. You miss the gap between asterisk Gwyn asterisk and asterisk Gwendolyn asterisk, a name that should have been there, a heir whose title was blotted with holy fire. The sunlight talisman's text is etched in ash, the same ash that stains the seance ring's rituals. The same ash that coats the throne where Gwyn sat, his crown a hollow of stolen years. What did they fear? A truth that the flame's eternity was bought with a life, not just fuel. The first flame does not burn, it asterisk hungers asterisk. And it was taught to hunger by the boy who first tended it before his will was burned away. The Evergaol's light is not golden. It is *ghostly*, a pallor that clings to the walls where a child's fingers once gripped the pommel of a sword too heavy for their bones. The curse of fire is not its warmth, it is the debt it demands. Gwyn's fallen son was no traitor. They were the first sacrifice in a cycle that made the age of fire possible. And when the flame finally sputters, it will not be Gwyn's curse that drowns the light. It will be the echo of a name the world forgot to fear. The tree's roots writhe, the talisman's words crack. And beneath the weight of a kingdom built on a tomb, the rage of a forgotten prince begins to stir. The Evergaol's geography is no accident. The golden tree sits where the first flame's pull is faintest, a paradox. The kiln demands proximity to fuel its link, yet here in this hollow the flame's reach is starved. Why plant a monument where fire cannot touch it? The answer hums in the silence between rituals. Gwyn's leap into the kiln was not a solo act. A second vessel was needed to hold the flame's wane, to balance its burn. The heir's soul bound in gold became that counterweight, a living lock on a dying flame. No annals name this. No ballad weeps for the child who never ruled. Only the tree's gnarled roots, twisting like choked prayers, hint at the price paid twice. Once by father, once by son, the kiln's fire burns bright, the Evergaol's tree burns cold, two sides of the same toll. Gwyn's sacrifice was not an end, it was a hinge, and the heir's imprisonment rust on the hinge. No historian will note this. The records show only a king's leap, a flame's spark, but the land remembers. The tree's hollow echoes with a voice that was never meant to fade, a prince's whisper, buried under centuries of borrowed light. The flame's longevity is not a triumph, it is a stalemate, and in the Evergaol's dark, a soul long bound begins to breathe. The note's ambiguity is no accident. Gwyn's light outlived its kindling. The first flame's breath was stolen from a son whose name the ages forgot. If the Lord of Cinder masked his grief, who else might history have gilded? The Evergaol's tree does not bloom, it does not rot, it waits. As the king's shadow stretched across the undead, his heir's absence became a chisel carving, a lie into the stone of every cathedral. No records of a prince who fell too soon, no dirge for the soul whose life force fed the fire that birthed an age. The golden tree's roots drink from a well of stolen years. What if its golden leaves are not a crown, but a shroud? The flame's longevity is no triumph, it is a silence so complete, even death cannot remember what was buried here. And in that silence, the heir's whisper grows louder, not to be heard, but to never be heard at all. The golden tree is no monument, it is a sarcophagus. Gwyn's heir lies within, bound in light, his death the unbroken chain that sustains the first flame. Lifedrain's fragments hint at this ritual, a cycle of slaughter, each heir's life force siphoned to fatten the fire that Gwyn first fed. The king of the dead did not sacrifice himself once, he orchestrated a lineage of extinction. The flame's longevity is not a triumph. It is a dirge, the Lifedrain's corruption whispers of a truth too vast for records. Gwyn's line was not extinguished by time, but by design. Each heir born to die, each soul a fuel. The golden tree's radiance is not glory, it is a shroud, the Evergaol's silence is not peace. It is the echo of a boy's last breath, stretched into an age. What waits beneath the flame's ash is not rebirth. It is a debt paid in generations. The first flame burns not with hope, but with the stolen heat of a dynasty erased. And still the tree glows, still the flame feeds, still the heir's whisper grows, not to be heard, but to never be heard at all. The whisper was never a plea, it was a requiem. The firstborn son, Gwyn's shadow-born heir, did not vanish, he was unmade. His name scraped from the flame's ledger, his bones fused to the tree's roots. The golden light is not life, it is a shroud. A cage for a soul Gwyn could not carry across the void. When the Ashen one kneels, they do not choose the flame's fate. They inherit its sin. The cycle was never Gwyn's sacrifice alone, it was his line, shattered in advance. Each age of fire is a wound dressed over the old. The Ashen one's choice to relink, to fade, to turn the flame to ashes, not defiance. It is repetition, a ritual to delay the moment the tree's roots crack open, spilling the heir's name like poison into the wind. What does it mean to call a king first? Gwyn was not the flame's maker, he was its midwife. The first flame was lit by a death he could not name. Now the Ashen one too is a midwife. Their hands press the same mold, shape the same lie. The golden tree glows because it starves, because something beneath it starves. The Evergaol's branches are not gold, they are rust, the air's blood, calcified. Gwyn's crown is a splinter in the tree's heart. And still the flame feeds, not on light, on absence, on a name that was never spoken, only remembered. What else lies buried in the roots? What else was made to remember? What if the golden tree's light is not Gwyn's sacrifice but his son's? A soul bound to fuel the flame, its radiance a cage. The first flame can be relinked, let die, or claimed by Shadowbutt who first paid the price. Names vanish in fire. What if the Evergaol's roots hold more than ash, more than a monument, a tomb for the heir who became the fuel? What if the flame's longevity is a debt, not a triumph? The records are silent, the tree remembers, what else was made to burn? Share your reading, this is not the only truth, but some stories demand a reckoning. What will yours uncover? What if the golden tree's light is not Gwyn's sacrifice but his son's? A soul bound to fuel the flame, its radiance a cage. The first flame can be relinked, let die, or claimed by Shadowbutt who first paid the price. Names vanish in fire. What if the Evergaol's roots hold more than ash, more than a monument, a tomb for the heir who became the fuel? What if the flame's longevity is a debt, not a triumph? The records are silent, the tree remembers, what else was made to burn? Share your reading.